This is Twit.
Okay, to start the story, I'm going to give you some insider baseball. Because what is this show but insider baseball, right?
Right, that's why we listen.
Exactly. So a week ago, Monday, unbeknownst to Paul and I, Microsoft had invited some journalists to campus. They got a private audience with Satya Nadella and a number of other executives. I also believe they probably saw the next HoloLens under NDA, just a guess.
Sure.
Interesting.
But at that event, which Microsoft did not publish a transcript for, we didn't really know what was happening until somebody who attended the event published a transcript as part of a paid newsletter. Not cool, Microsoft. Just saying.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to pay for transcripts of your events.
No.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox. So what happened was Satya Nadella was asked at this event by one of the people attending, a journalist or an analyst, hey, what about Microsoft being in the consumer space? Are you guys serious still about it? What about Cortana? And he gave a fairly direct answer about what's going to happen with her. And as we expected, she is becoming an app, and is not going to be a standalone digital assistant.
Wow.
But he also threw in a few interesting tidbits when he answered this. He started talking about speakers, and there's been various rumors that Microsoft was going to build its own speaker at some point, and he just quashed that immediately and was like, "Nope, we're not doing that." Then he also was asked, what's the positioning and all, and he mentioned that she's also going to work with Google Assistant.
Well, they'd like her to.
It sounds like they are planning on it, right?
In the same way that Cortana works with Alexa or Echo right now.
That's kind of the implication.
I didn't read that transcript, but the quotes I read about that part said that he basically said, "I hope we can work with Google on this." I don't, unless someone misquoted
Google,
it,
right? It's not.
Yeah, well,
I would think it's up to them. Unless can they just make it a skill for Google?
Of course they could. Yeah,
I guess they could. They said
That'd be kind of humiliating, though.
Well,
he said, but then he also threw this in. Cortana needs to be the skill for anybody who's a Microsoft 365 subscriber, which currently is not a requirement. You should be able to use it on Google Assistant.
Yeah.
So there's a couple interesting things there. Are they going to do a deal with Google, or are they just going to publish a skill? And then what about that caveat, the Microsoft 365 subscriber?
Not for everybody, but...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. It's your show. I'm just curious.
Well, I was just going to say, it seems like they're funneling everything through Microsoft 365, and there were direct, that him saying that makes it a new rumor of sorts that they might do a consumer version, right, of Microsoft 365. So
he definitely hinted that during this conversation as well.
If we think that Cortana is going to require Microsoft 365, that's kind of a tough one. I mean, you could make the argument. Obviously, Cortana today is on Android and iOS. Right. Office is on Android and iOS.
Right.
Office is a lot more powerful when you're today an Office 365 subscriber. Could it follow that model? Sure. Microsoft 365 comes with Windows 10. Cortana is part of Windows 10. You can kind of go down the rabbit hole on that one. But, this one's tough, right? And there's another topic here later that's going to fall into the same category. There is a growing contingent of people in the Microsoft community who care about the consumer-oriented stuff, and they just watch the stuff fall off one by one by one. And it's been a tough, decade or whatever we want to say, but when you care about the consumer side of the equation, like I do, it's been kind of tough. I'll point out that Microsoft, when they gave up on mobile, literally used the phrase, we missed this wave. We are not going to miss the next wave. Well, I have a newsflash for you, Microsoft. This is the next wave.
I know.
And this being what I would call ambient computing, but it includes such things as talking to, in this case, speakers, but eventually this will be just, a capability that's built into all kinds of things. And the natural language processing and all the stuff that goes along with that. I guess the bone I will throw out to people who care about this stuff is that there is a version of the story where Microsoft still is very successful in this space, and that is in getting Cortana and other back-end services all over the place, right?
Right.
It's not, like Leo said, it is humiliating to a degree to say, oh, Cortana is now one of 16 million, skills or Google Assistant skills or whatever these things are called. Yes, I mean, for sure. But, the pervasive use of Microsoft technology behind the scenes, even though it's not as forward-leaning and something that we would see as consumers, is still potentially very lucrative for the company. Mm-hmm. And,
right.
And we'll see. I think we talked last week probably about the BMW assistant, for example, that's actually based on Cortana. So you're never going to see a Cortana logo or the name Cortana or hear Cortana in that car, but that's still the technology that's driving it.
Right. Like I know I had a reader ask me, so that means they're throwing in the towel on voice being the next UI? No, it doesn't mean that actually. It means they are still looking for ways to make this part of their own suite of solutions, like you said, embedded into Office 365 apps and by extension into Microsoft 365. That still could be really powerful. It just will not be the same as what it has been.
This is a really one-sided spreadsheet or a chart or whatever, where, you can kind of stack this stuff up, like stuff I care about on one side and stuff I don't care about on the other. And, Cortana was one of those things that was very interesting because of what it was and because of the market it addressed. Mm-hmm. And now it's getting lumped back over that increasingly humongous pile of stuff that Paul does not care about. It's just,
if anybody knows Microsoft knows who's using Cortana.
Yeah, they do.
And it sounds to me like they've said, well, no one uses it, so it's not a product.
Belatedly. I mean, I guess I give him credit for being transparent and open about it, although he had to be asked about it for him to even mention it.
Well, he did say something.
He did say something.
It does sound like they're keeping it alive only because they can't promise that Echo and Google Assistant will provide good support for Microsoft products.
Yeah. Well, right.
So it's really a driver. It's basically a voice driver for Microsoft Windows.
Except I think you have to think about what is it going to become in the future? Because right now it's just like the other assistants. It's something you ask kind of simple questions and it gives you a simple answer. And in fact, I don't know if you've noticed this, if anybody else who has a Harman Kardon noticed this, but I feel like it's giving fewer and fewer answers lately. Like, I don't know if that's a conscious change they're making.
Flowers for Algernon syndrome.
I'm losing my mind.
Because I think they're literally kind of dropping off capabilities because either they're not being used or they have no further intention to go out with this. It's just part of that end of life thing that they haven't really talked about, but what they're focused on, I think, for this stuff is more of the back end stuff. Although ironically, I don't think this is in the show notes, but they just announced like a smart home update for the Cortana app for Android and iOS, which is, guys, seriously, like you got to get the messaging straight on this. I mean, it's really strange.
It's like,
I feel like because they have been either because they haven't known exactly what the positioning was going to be, or they've been trying to hide it, that it's made things way more complicated than it needed to be. I remember an interview I had with somebody on that team at Ignite, and I felt like at the time when I was talking to him, he was giving me very good answers. Like he was saying, we decided Cortana doesn't need to be this simple. You ask a simple question and we give you one answer and it's over. We want to make it, if you want to ask something more complicated, we're doing the kind of the calculations behind the scenes. So you could say, what's my boss's calendar look like? And it would know who your boss was. Mm-hmm. And that's a much more advanced query, right? So I felt like, that's where they're going to go with it. But then they also kept saying, but it's still not going to go away as a digital assistant. I'm like, well, it's being moved to a different positioning now. You guys should just say that.
Look, I don't think we're going to see these smart assistant speaker things, these smart speaker things in offices per se. Although in the form of speakers, that people like companies are going to start putting speakers around. I don't think anyone wants people talking to things in the office, whatever. But obviously, it will, it is, and will continue to be embedded Microsoft software and other services and so forth. But you really can draw a nice parallel here to the mobile market. I mean, what does it mean when Microsoft gives up on mobile? Well, it means their apps have to be on the popular mobile platforms of the day, and you could kind of view this in the same light. I mean, if they're essentially giving up on Cortana as a standalone assistant for consumers especially, well, Cortana, the capabilities that, she was putting out to the world have to be put out to the world in the place where people are, and the places, and those places are, again, Google and Apple actually there are Google and Amazon ecosystems in this case. It's really the same kind of brutal math. I mean, you have to go where the customers are.